Hey, what's good, people? It's DSD Informed here. I've been asked a number of times my position and my feelings about this whole Confederate flag situation. A lot of people at my job ask me. We speak about it on low key terms, and they're very surprised at my answer. I think it's partially due to the fact that I'm really not concerned with it, and even more so the amount of information I'm willing to give them as to why I'm not really concerned with it. I'm going to sprout out. I'm going to give off a few facts here. I actually did this research probably about took me about 30 minutes to go through and get all of this, and just to gather it up and grab some books and check some dates and stuff like this. I do apologize for any inaccuracies if I'm off by maybe a year or so like that, but some things are very they're kind of tossed up a little bit, while others are very concrete that we are sure of and we know about exactly. So don't hold me to exacts. I'm not saying that what I'm saying right now is exactly right down to the very day, month, year. But I'm talking everything here is accurate within it, maybe a 3 to 5 year range, depending on the time frame by which I'm referring to. All right, now when it comes to the Confederate flag, I'm not really concerned about it being flown. I feel like if they want to fly the Confederate flag, so be it. Because at the end of the day, it's the American flag, or the Stars and Stripes, the Star Spangled Banner, the flag of the United States of America. That's the flag that if we see it, we should be offended by, not some Confederate flag or the flag of the Confederacy. Honestly, you're wasting your time and your energy and your efforts to have a flag that became a representation of something be brought down, because it's like I said, it's the American flag that's more or less the issue. Now, slavery. If I'm not mistaken, my sources tell me that Dutch ships came over with Africans and to be used over here, and around 1619, 1620 or so, and and then it just went on from there. Now, the first American flag, about 158 years after slavery started, was put together around 1777, 1780. That was the first American flag, and that's right around the time with the whole Betsy Ross and the Stars and Stripes with the Union, which is the blue square, the 13 stars, and other formalities like that. So within that 3 year period between 1777 and 1780 is when the first flag was erected. Now, that's important considering that it wasn't until probably about 90 years later that the Confederate flag was even erected. Like, let's make that clear. So, 1861 to 1865 is when the Confederate flag was flown at its proudest times. So now, the first American flag was created when 1777 to 1780. Right? 90 years later, roughly so. I'm gonna say 85. Still, 85, 90 years later, we get the Confederate flag. Do you see where I'm going? So we spent the better part of a century in slavery. Even though this was the tail end of slavery when it went away, we spent the better part of a century in slavery under the American flag. Granted, it's not the one that flies today. Still, it was a flag in representation of America, or what will become America. And therefore, if you are offended by what the Confederate flag represented for those few years, I would think that almost 100 years of just slavery in itself would make you even more upset. Let's continue. From about 1800 to 1866, you had what were called black codes. These were the prequels to what we know to be Jim Crow laws. And these black codes, of course, were very harsh, very, very foul, very messed up times, and very messed up rules and regulation and laws for black people. So again, that's 66 years of black codes. 66 years of this flying under the American flag, mind you. Still, let's move on to the Jim Crow era. Roughly around 1890 to and I know for sure in 1896 we had the Plessy v. Ferguson case that said separate but equal was okay. Okay, so now 1890, 1895, somewhere in this time frame, 1896, is when they decided that it was okay for us to be screwed over, and it was legal, and it was perfectly fine. That's okay. No problem. Granted, the Confederate flag has been gone for 30 years. Some states are still utilizing it, but it's not flown in this same glory. The American flag is, though. That goes on until Jim Crow was until 1864 with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That whole time, all of those years, that those things were happening to us as a people, this Jim Crow era, the American flag flew. Now, we see the rise of the KKK in 1865, the original band, and then of course there have been two other waves of there have been many different formalities of the KKK, but there are really three waves of the KKK. All three have existed and been allowed to exist under the American flag. That's very important, because though we are, or we make ourselves believe we're considered to be American citizens, we were violated and treated very poorly, and backs were turned and heads were turned and deaf ears and blind eye were turned to all of the bad things that happened to us under this American flag after 1865 now. So I'm moving past the slavery era and I'm moving into more of the modern day, the past 150 years. Black Wall Street, sound familiar? Now, Black Wall Street was built and torn down in 56 years. My mother's not even 56 years old. Granted, she wasn't born back then. From 1865 to 1921 is a 56-year period. Black Wall Street was created and destroyed within that period. Again, on the American flag now. Greatness created and destroyed out of hatred and jealousy. But the American flag flew. Again, the Confederate flag has not been flown in its glory. Now, some people still carry it on. Some people still represented it. Some people still had that love for it. But the American flag flew the whole time. Never once had it stopped flying. The Tuskegee experiment. You remember when that was spreading syphilis around in a black neighborhood? You remember that? Y'all remember about those things that happened from about 1932 to 1972? 40 years of injecting syphilis into the black community, all flying under the American flag. But we still salute, pledge allegiance, and raise and wave that flag proudly. Now, there have been many, many wars on American soil and worldwide that America has been involved in. Many, if not all of them, most of them, have included black people being on front line, being sent on dummy missions, and being utilized as targets, early targets, the first to hit the ground targets to be killed in all of these wars. But 9 really stick out. The Revolutionary War, when America fought against England for their independence. The Civil War, which was the whole deal about slavery in the first place. World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Gulf War, this war that's in Afghanistan, the Iraqi War, the war in Pakistan, and many, many others. I can go on forever. The list that I found of wars involving America was extensive. But again, I say all of this. Eric Gardner, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. The list goes on forever and a day of all the injustices that have happened to us as a people. Yet, we see the Confederate flag and feel hurt. But we'll look up at the Star Spangled Banner and feel pride in our country and feel great about what we as a country have accomplished. And we feel strength in that. We're okay with that. We'll say we are Americans and proud of it. But anybody flying that Confederate flag? Nah, man. We can't have that. You know, my great granddaddy and my granddaddy could go to war for this country and couldn't come back and sit down and get a cup of coffee, but risked his life so that we can enjoy the freedoms here under that American flag. But did I say American? Yes, American flag. Just making sure. Excuse me. But the Confederate flag? No, that insults me. I'm insulted by the Confederate flag. No. Open your eyes, people. You're being drawn in to be included in a mess that ain't had nothing to do with you. Stop it. Know your history. And this is a small amount of stuff that went on. This is a very quick list, even though it's taking me minutes to go over it. This is a small list of information of what's really been going on. Know your history. Know what's going on. Think. It's not illegal yet. Maybe it is and we just don't know it. Either way, I'm dead to inform. You all have a good one. Peace.